located in what is considered to be one of the most mysterious places in Kyiv, a place called Bald Mountain, or Lisa, Gora as it is in Ukrainian. And Bald Mountain is located on the southwest side of WWII metro station and on the west side of River Libid, sort of at the end of the river. So it's a really big area. It's about 10 square kilometers or something like that, maybe 5 square kilometers. Quite a trek if you want to walk. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about this magical, mystical place, I suppose, and take a little tour of it, and then let you know how it is over here. Okay, so we're making our way to the Bald Mountain, and the Bald Mountain takes its name from the fact that it's been getting hit by lightning a lot, and it burned off the top of the mountain where lots of trees were. Now it's supposedly no trees over there. The mysterious part about that is the fact that it's certainly not the highest point for lightning to hit. You know, that's something to think about. It makes me wonder why it got hit by lightning so many times. And behind me is an interesting tunnel. I think it must have been due to the fort, because there's a Lichansky fort at the head of us, and I guess this was like a wall that was built, the fortification wall, and these were probably leading to the tunnels somewhere underneath here. So yeah, so this place has a lot of history behind it. In general, the Bald Mountain area is divided into 3 parts. The first part is called Mermaid Ravine, and it's called that way because there's a lake, you know, rumored to have been home to a bunch of mermaids. We'll see if we can find it, but it has a pretty mystical quality to it. The second part of Bald Mountain is the Witches Ravine, and that area is home to a bunch of witches. Again, according to a legend, the Witches Ravine does have a lot of these ritual spaces, perhaps the people doing sacrifices over there. And the third part is the Dead Grove. Again, it has to do with the dead. It's also apparently a cemetery of some sort where lots of people were buried. So we just walked through the tunnel that's been built over here as part of the Lichansky fort, and it's important to note that aside from these walls that were built here with obviously brick, and you can tell that it's been built here for a while because it has these braces over here. The absence of civilization is quite prevalent. You can feel that nothing has been built here. This place has history. How it does come off as a bit creepy, and I guess that's part of the appeal of the place. Well, we're at the entrance of the Lisa Gora Park, the actual territory of Lisa Gora, and we're gonna see what happens when we get in there. We're gonna be overtaken by some sort of mystical energy or some magic spells or something. So let's go in there and find out. We went into a site that looks like some sort of a ritual site, and well, I think this is a good opportunity to start off and explain to you guys a little bit about the pagan times, the times before Christianity appeared here in Eastern Europe. So there are rumors that a certain secret religion was practiced here that is still undiscovered apparently by pagans or people that were here before Christianity appeared. The rumor is that during the age of the Kievan Rus, which lasted between 1882 to 1240, I believe, that was before Christianity came in, and Kyiv was Christian supposedly, and that was when a bunch of different religions reigned free and people practiced what they did, and basically you had things like sorcerers, witches, and that sort of thing. Is it a rumor or is there some truth to it? According to Boris Rybakov, which is a famous Soviet archaeologist and historian, he said that the top of the mountain was used for a number of rituals and sacrifices, and that area was, and this area probably as well, was used to sort of worship gods. And you had sculptures of gods that obviously are gone now. I believe this one behind me, I believe that is a reconstruction. A perfect example of a sculpture that actually existed was the Zbruchansky idol, I believe, which was discovered in 1848 in Zbruch, which is in western Ukraine. And right now that is located in a Polish archaeological museum. It's not located in Ukraine. So it's very difficult to actually come to any conclusions about what happened after that, what happened after Christians came along, and how they intertwined, or how they, what the relationship was with the pagans, because pagans are completely, they're completely at odds with their beliefs. But it's safe to assume that many pagans were consecrated by Christians and they were made saints. At the end, when Christianity was brought to the Kievan Rus monks, monks came here, and then they basically took over the lands. They built monasteries that obviously are not here with us either, but it's safe to assume that they had a presence here, and they built a lot of these tunnels to connect with the Paches Klavra. These tunnels have been filled up right now, and they're not accessible, but it's well documented that these tunnels exist and were built by monks. The reality is that during the Kievan Rus, up until 1240, during the pagan times, there were not really any aspect of life that didn't involve witches or witchcraft in some form, because you have to realize that half of the population were women, and every other woman could potentially be a witch, which means that she had some sort of connection with the afterlife, with the spiritual, with the mythical, and this was their base. This Lisa Hora was their base. It was their point of operation. And yeah, there were many different kinds of places that they could utilize for rituals, and this is one of them. So in 1240, what happened was the Mongols invaded the Kievan Rus. Obviously took over Russia, they came over to modern-day Ukraine, and they took over all the land, and obviously they were fighting with the inhabitants of the Kievan Rus. Basically, the townsfolk found refuge in the caves to hide away from the Mongols as their army invaded the Kievan Rus. The Mongols, in order to avoid running through the labyrinths and to find the people that hid, they sealed off the exits, and they set the tunnels on fire. According to legend, all the people burned alive, and it must have been at least dozens of thousands, or maybe even hundreds of thousands of people that were hidden in there. As a result, from the pagan times and the rituals and the sacrifices that must have happened here, as well as the history with the Mongols and the caves and the deaths that happened there, this area does have quite a bit of a mystery and quite a negative presence that you can feel, walking around and taking in what's in here. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about times after Mongols left and what happened after Russia regained control of these lands. So we're still in the area of the fort, and I think it's a good opportunity to talk a little bit about the actual fortress. So the first fort was built in the year 1872 during Peter the Great's rule. So this used to be one of the largest fortifications in all of Europe, but how did it happen? The thing is, Kyiv was really concerned from the invasion from Austria-Hungary at the time, around the mid-1800s. A bunch of forts were erected in the vicinity of this area. Between 1810 to 1812, the Swath fort was erected. Between 1831 and 1840, a Vasilkivsky fort was also erected. Tensions really kept rising until about 1862, when a military general called Totolben proposed over 27 forts in this area. And this really was unnecessary because this territory is pretty far from Kyiv, right? This wasn't a strategic place to defend. Nevertheless, a lot of different barracks, a lot of different hospitals, things like auxiliary buildings, it all sort of led into what later would be the Lechinsky fort. And the Lechinsky fort, aside from being really, really big, one of its defining features was that in the basement of the main building, it had a system of canals that would pump water in there in case the fort was invaded, and that water could be let out and fill up the basement and obviously render the enemy incapable of getting out. Basically, the whole area remained a fort until about 1900s. Between 1905 and 1917, that was before the Russian Revolution, it's estimated that over 200 people were executed in the Lechinsky prison, as it was then called. A very famous individual was also killed here, and that was Dmitry Bogrov, and a salient of Peter Stolupin. In 1911, he was sentenced here, and this whole fort remained a prison. It was stormed once in 1919, and also resulted in some death and destruction. But history didn't end there, and this area did see more action during World War II. There were a bunch of explosions here in the vicinity because this area did store a lot of ammunition, and there were some deaths as well. However, when Germans invaded Kyiv in 1941, they did take over this fort, and then they used it as tank storage. So there's a lot of Tiger tanks parts that probably are not here around anymore, but they were scattered all over the place, all the way, I believe, into the 1980s. The fort that Germans were stationed in was overrun by the Soviet forces, and about 300 prisoners were taken by the Soviet forces. But however, as a German army was retreating, they did blow up quite a lot of fortifications, quite a lot of buildings that were here during the war. Since the World War II ended, nobody has ever tried to build anything here. In 1982, this whole area was designated to be a suburban park in Kyiv, and it has remained that way since then. I hope you guys learned a little bit about this very interesting place that has so much history and so many legends, I guess, surrounding it. And anyway, if you like the video, hit like and leave a comment below what you think about it. And see you guys in the next one. Take care.